Hey everyone, welcome back to Bladebound Saga. My name is Daniel, otherwise known as Rice Combo Online, and in today's video, we're diving deep into Candela Obscura's Horror of the Fairlands, where we break down everything inside this premium edition of Beetle and Grimm and Darrington Press's box. Whether you're considering picking this up or already have it, we're just going to go through the components, check the quality, and see how it holds up at the table.
Welcome to Bladebound Saga.
So, Candela Obscura, Horror of the Fairlands, is the premium edition from Beetle and Grimm and Darrington Press. Darrington Press at the bottom, Beetle and Grimm on the side. This is essentially a premium edition, so I'm not sure how many of these are still out, but as soon as I saw this, I decided I needed to have it because, one, it's from Darrington Press. As a company, I absolutely love them, but two, it had a GM screen for Candela Obscura, which, while not absolutely needed, as we've been playing Candela Obscura now since it launched without one, it was definitely one of the big pushes as to why I needed to have one. So we're going to open this. Fun fact is this was originally an unboxing where I was going to look at this for the first time, but the audio quality really screwed up. So now I'm just going to basically open this up and show you what is all in it. I haven't actually run any of the games here so far, as I just got this last week, but I'm excited to kind of show you what exactly is in this book, as I am fairly happy with everything that came in. So the first thing on the front, to begin with, it's 8 assignments in the gilded world, and in a gilded world of terrifying magic, which is basically Candela Obscura. For those who don't know what this is essentially Darrington Press's take on a eldritch fantasy, where it's kind of in this new, or this place called New Fair, which is kind of a old Jersey. And it has this kind of old 19 or like early 1900s 1920s kind of vibe, and so you're basically exploring, and unlike a normal fantasy tabletop RPG where we would see us fighting monsters, when you encounter these eldritch horrors, you want to run. Don't engage these head on, lest you start to take a sort of damage called bleed. Your damage is kind of body, brain, and bleed. Bleed is kind of this exposure to the eldritch horrors. So it's a very interesting style, and I very much would say this is best played in person, though totally doable online, as long as all players are ready to come into it with this expectation of kind of wanting to be spooked out a little bit. So first thing that I kind of want to show, and I'll kind of see if there's a content sheet here. I'll talk about exactly what we'll see. We're going to see the book, we're going to see some maps, we're going to see the GM screen, which I'm excited to show you all about. There's going to be handouts, art cards, and then there's actually a couple props and pre-generated sheets. So, and then it promos a couple of the other neat things from Beetle and Grimm's. So they have the Tal'Dorei campaign setting badge pack, the coins, and then some just other character dice sets. So, cool. Pre-gens, we've seen these online. This one's an empty sheet, but then you also have the other pre-gens underneath. Looks like it has your, like, the Slink, Karen. We have Duncan, who is the muscle. Annabelle, who is the face. Billy, who's the scholar, and then Metaphysical Mog, who's the weird. Interesting characters. I'm not going to dive too much into this because I'm sure these character sheets are already online. But first thing I do want to talk about is this beautiful GM screen here. This GM screen itself, I think this is what your players are typically going to see. Lovely artwork, and I will find the artist. I know it's written out here. Amelia Leonards, and the maps are designed by Mark Moreau. But I'll kind of go through each one. So this is the other flaps of the GM screen. Beautiful looking GM screen, very well, high quality. Kind of what you would expect for a premium edition. Fairly standard. It is a tall GM screen. So it doesn't sit outwards. It more or less sits high. So at a table, you might want to find a higher chair. I'm not usually the biggest fan of this, but this gives you a lot of information. So not to spend too much time, just go through the first flap here. Okay, first flap here is just general GM reminders. So kind of just goes through the terms. If I find a screenshot of this online, I'll definitely post it. Otherwise, it's just what I see here. Some of your general GM principles, most of Darrington Press's tabletop RPGs will tell you what you, as a GM, want to evoke, so that way your players are experiencing a true Candela Obscura experience. But then it also has some of your kind of quick references. So what actions someone might want to do, some of the drives and resistances that may be put on them, as well as some of the organizations within the Candela Obscura universe. So you have Candela Obscura, which is typically the assignments or the organization that you will be working under. Then there's the Eons, the Esoteric Order of New Sciences, the Offices of Unexplained Phenomenon, or OOP, the Pyre, the Red Hand, Triumvirate, and then the Unabridged, which are just different factions, but gives you a quick reference that any GM would need if they're running it in this universe. I will also say, for the most part, with Candela, for those who are not familiar with Candela, it does take place in a specific universe. So unlike something like Daggerheart, where you can kind of grab the game and then plug it into any universe you want, Candela Obscura does have more of a lore-based universe where you do want to play with the understanding that New Fair is the setting. You can tweak it, obviously, there's a lot of places, but it definitely plays well with playing in the setting itself. Some other things that you'll see are just some general gear. Let's see if we can find a good angle on that. Less glare. But this is just general gear that you might have. So it talks about things like atomizer, rope, shears, maps, stuff like that. Then talks about some special gear specific to the horror of the Fairlands. So these are special gear that we will find, and then it kind of tells you how those work mechanically. And then there are the different mechanical effects. So it talked about what body, brain, and bleed, which is the type of damage you can take. Rolls, gilded rolls, so special rolls that you might have, and the number of use items. This is in fairly common terms. Next we'll talk about is countdowns. So for those who are unaware of how countdowns work, essentially they are telling you how heavy of a challenge something is. So something that is a very difficult challenge might have a countdown of 6. So something with a light challenge might have a countdown of 3. So the higher the countdown, the more you have to do to succeed. So if you want a difficult encounter, typically you're looking at countdowns rather than looking at health bars. Is typically what you'll see, and then depending on what you roll is how far that countdown will be reduced by. And your stakes, fairly simple stuff for most dungeon masters. If you want to, if it's something that does not have an immediate effect, won't harm too much, probably low stakes. But if something is going to be everlasting all throughout time, probably higher stakes. This is pretty much GM advice, and then kind of talks a little bit about it in specifically the New Fair campaign setting. That being said, for campaign setting, it does have a wonderful map, which they do have a bigger map in the box, which we will see in a little bit, but it gives you a quick reference for the GM with the locations as well, and streets, which I think is very helpful when it comes to just general information. Keeps everything at your fingertips, which is what a GM screen is for. I really hate GM screens that are more information than you need, and most of the time this is what I will be referring to rather than grabbing the book, and I think it does a really good job of it from what I've seen. That being said, I will skip one thing and I'll jump back to that. Here is one of the maps that it does give you. So a small map. On the back it just says New Fair 1907. But this in of itself is I don't think I can fit this all, but is a map of New Fair. I'm trying to get rid of the glare, but I don't think I fully can. But basically that same exact map that we just saw in the GM screen. Then we get the big map, and when I say big map, I'm going to step back. Might lose some audio quality, but this is a very big map. Less glare because I'm far back, but this is the big map. It kind of has a little bit more of the outskirts, which I know from what I remember reading in the, what I remember reading in the book itself with one of the assignments, it does take you up towards that area and kind of more of the surrounding areas of New Fair, so you aren't just going to be in the city this time around, unlike I think most assignments have been within the city itself. Don't think I folded this right. Folds like that. Folds like that. Does not fold like that. So, then we jump in, before we jump into the book, beautiful book, we'll talk about that in a second. I do want to go through some of these art pieces. So these are going to be sheets that, if I just pull one, this is called The Steel. So it has great art. Nice thing about this is it folds out. It's blank on the inside, but you place it in front of your GM screen, and on the back is stuff for you as the GM. So information about what exactly the steel is, and it has all these setting areas. So the steel, the varnish, I'm just going to see if I can find some of the ones that I think might look the coolest. The scarlet wood, so what we were just talking about a second ago, along with its information on the back. Admire the art. Illustrator Amelia Leonards, once again. Let's see if I can find another one. There's just so many of them. And the art is absolutely beautiful, but I do want to just see if there's any ones that like really stick out. Oh, the red lamp, which it does tell you which some information. Sorry, I guess I didn't have that high enough. Some information there on where exactly you would find the red lamp. But I believe this will tell you about some of the points of interest within the red lamp. And so when you know you're kind of looking through the book, what you're going to, or where you're going to want to take your players, you can pre-prep these so that way you have a full visual aid. Because once again, a picture is worth 1,000 words. The same thing works in tabletop RPGs. Just because the GM doesn't describe it doesn't mean it's not powerful and evocative. But then they have these smaller ones that are specifically tied to an assignment. So we have Florence and the Automaton, which is a smaller set, but you can see if we flip this over, it's from the Bright Knights, specifically from the Bright Knights. And so you know that this is going to be something that you're going to pull. And you can kind of place it, has some information about who exactly Florence is and who the soul is. Who knows what any of this stuff is. Let's see if there's another one. I love this image of the phonograph. And this one's from Champagne Problems, so one of the assignments in the book. And then let's see if there's anything that really like sticks out to me here. I'm just going to pick one more. This one looks so cool. Just because I really don't know what this is about. But Mother Mercy. And this is from the book The Lifeblood. Or the assignment, The Lifeblood. So really interesting things, and just stuff that you can kind of place in front of your players, which I think is going to help a lot, especially for immersion. That being said, this doesn't really help online, but I think this is something that you could either photocopy, or something that you could probably just like do exactly what I'm doing here, where you just place the image on your screen. Hopefully it doesn't take away from the immersion. I think the nice thing about this is it's just something that you slightly place, and your player's like, what the hell is that? Which is usually the reaction you want from players. I will talk about some of the pieces that the thing came with. So first is going to be this token, which this token is, let me look and read back to you. Give me a second to read back to you what exactly this token is supposed to represent. This token is going to be the token of fairness. So a silver coin. I try to block myself so it focuses. Okay, this isn't working very well. So the silver coin, a really nice thing that you can actually hand to your players if you're playing in person, basically is a coin, a symbol of the triumvirate. And so hand it out to members, and it specifically does tell me that it is meant for the assignment, the locked library, which I will talk a little bit about it and just kind of at least go through what exactly is in each assignment. And then we do get one amulet, which is honestly just a really great piece of jewelry, but this is an ancient fair amulet. So you'll find this in the adventure, The Express Train to Hell. It's a relic that your players can touch and maybe wear. And so I think it would be interesting if you just kind of throw it and just kind of show them what it is. And I'm pretty sure and honestly, I don't know if this is it, but I probably would do something with it where I just kind of throw it on the table and then see who picks it up. And then they are affected by something. I think it'd just be interesting to play it that way since you have a physical product. But yeah, so that's that. The other things that you have, and so I won't go too in-depth into this, but these are all assignment files, and it says assignment files, but these are actually handouts that I, as a GM, and I will give you an example of one of them, would give to a player. So right now here, this is a note of something. I don't know what this is for, don't know what it says. I'm not even going to let it focus because you don't need to know. But these are notes that you would basically give to your players. There are some like posters that you would probably see within New Fair that you would probably look at and send to your players. And so it kind of just depends on the assignment itself. But you have something to physically give to your players, which I know as myself, I've done that before where I've written notes, passed it on to players, stuff like that. And I think it's really fun to kind of have that interaction because then they have something to see, to hold and grab onto. But yeah, that's almost everything. The big thing I'm sure you all are interested in here is the actual book itself of Horror in the Fairlands. Once again, it is 8 assignments in a gilded world of terrifying magic. So, I believe this is a PDF if I'm able to find some of this stuff online. This is a slipcover, so it does slip out, and this is what it looks like. This is probably how I will hold it. As much as I love these things, I really love looking at the book where it's incredibly simplified, where the back doesn't have any writing versus with this. It does have a little bits of writing. I'll definitely keep this. I'm not tossing it by all means, but I do love looking at a book like this. And then I'm just going to go through. It does have everything written well in terms of a table of contents, just like any other book. It tells you exactly where you're going. It talks about some of the playtesters for the book itself. Shout out to them. But other than that, it just kind of goes through the general expectations, stuff that you want to share in session 0. So some things like that. See how well it focuses. And then I will just simply kind of continue going through that. I will just simply read through the first assignment and what you would likely be sharing at the session 0, which I think is going to be just some general information. So the premise of the first one, A Style of Vengeance, is, and also it has content warnings, but probably going to have some pretty deep content warnings for Candela Obscura. But content warnings are blood, body horror, and drowning. So, the premise, a Candela Obscura agent is found dead in their flat, a pink flower of unknown origin growing from their tongue. Books and shelves hint that the agent was a descendant of a leading alchemist during the tearing of the vast chasm. So, then we get to kind of read through a little bit. It kind of talks about what exactly is going on, so stuff that you want to kind of share with your players. There's this certain type of magic, talks about themes, so vengeance is one of them, as the name of the book says. Paranoia, sins of our ancestors, and hubris. And then talks a little bit about the atmosphere, so what you're expecting. And then there are some notes, and this is up to you as a GM on whether you're going to share what the adversary is about. I probably wouldn't, or at least I'd say like the adversary is some sort of X, Y, and Z. I won't share because maybe you're about to run this, or a friend of yours is going to run this as a one-shot, and I don't want to spoil anything. And then it also talks about the hook, so literally something that you will read to your players when the session starts. And then it goes through your general, like, what you would know, some crime scene information, and basically you are running this game with a pre-made assignment that you don't really have to put too much thought into. It's already set up for you. So, but yeah, that's essentially the Candela Obscura Horror of the Fairlands. That's what's in the box. I'm not going to go too much in depth because one thing that I'm actually going to be doing is I will be running this for a community game here in the next month. So around in April, I'm going to be running one of these assignments from Horror of the Fairlands as a community game. So if you're not part of the community, make sure to go into the description and find the Discord link. Join our Discord because that's the one place that you're going to be able to hop in on the community games after everyone else has signed up. So if you're interested in getting in a game with me, that's the best place that you're going to go outside of my start playing games. And so with that being said, that's the end of the video. That is Horror of the Fairlands. I'm excited to run the game with you all. And as always, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.
From ink and steel, stories are forged. We are Blade-Bound Saga.